Hello everyone, and today we're bringing back just some classic Buster Blader action here, just grinding up through the ranks. I believe this was on our approach to Diamond here, just getting a couple of free wins in with Buster Blader and just wanted to show it off. No changes to the deck list, no nothing, it's performing perfectly as it should and is still keeping its place in the metagame. So really happy with its performance. So anyone loving Buster Blader, this is your way to play it. Like we've covered before, deck profiles we've done in previous videos, so I'm not going to waste your time with that here today. We're just going to be diving straight into some gameplay. So if you like what you're seeing and you want to see more, feel free to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment down below for whether or not you like playing these sorts of hybrid Buster Blader decks. I know a lot of people like those sort of pure gimmicky ones that maybe perform once in a blue moon, but if you want to get your way up through ranked and you want to actually see yourself winning some games, you want to be playing it like this. So without further ado, let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty, getting into game one, and what a nasty wee hand we've got here. So we're going to open up with our Whelp to try and search for our prologue. We do unfortunately get Ashed. We go to use Cult by the Grave here to stop that Ash Blossom. We really need to get access to our prologue, but our opponent has the infinite impermanence. They are backing themselves up, doubling up on their order. So first game, right off the bat, this is a game where nothing goes to plan. We don't have our prologue, which, if you're looking at any other deck list, is going to really cripple you. This is an auto scoop for most lists. We get negated. Whatever, we're going to go into Linkuriboh, set our trap cards and pass. We have a plan here as to how we're going to win this. It just depends on what our opponent does and plays. Our opponent's going to open up Tinyi Spirit at Hara, so they're playing Sword Souls here, going into Monk of the Tinyi here off the bat, summoning out their Sword Soul of Taya, banishing the Adhara. That's when we kick in with our infinite impermanence and negating their Taya, preventing their Synchro Summon. So playing against Sword Souls, they've already used up a bunch of their resources on our turn. They don't have a ton of resources left to use on their own turn, so we're able to at least weather the storm a little bit on that front. He's going to Link Summon here into Shaman of the Tinyi, which is a good play, because now he can discard a monster to resummon his Monk, and when his Monk declares an attack, he can pop our back row card. That's when we're going to activate Linkuriboh first, because it's a trigger effect. Then we can use our trap card, Destruction Sword Memories, ditching a card here. Our opponent actually has no real way now to get over the Buster Blader that we're summoning, because this ditches a Destruction Sword card to summon Buster Blader. We're 2600, we are large and in charge, but they are going to come out with Protos. Protos pops the field, stops us from summoning Earth. That's a problem. That 3000 defense is also going to be an issue. We top deck in the Infinite Impermanence, which doesn't do us a ton of favors here on this occasion, so we're just going to have to hope our opponent doesn't get anything. There's not a lot of one-card starters in Sword Souls other than Taya itself, and assuming he's playing 2 like most do, there's only really 4 copies of it if you count 3 Emergence, so we're not too worried about him top-decking any good card. Luckily though, we can, top-decking into Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman here. Our opponent's just going to go Battle Phase once again, 2500 to the face. That's when we're going to go for Prologue, ditching yet another copy of Memories to the graveyard. We're also now going to use the we use the Infinite Impermanence here. The reason we use it now is if this face down card is Sword Soul Blackout, we want to sort of, hopefully he forgets that this column then from now on is being impermed, or at the very least it's going to stop him from using the Blackout on this turn during the battle phase to get his attack across. So we're at least pushing the Blackout back just in case that happens to be what it is. We don't want to get blown up right off the bat here. We summon out our Buster Blader, we summon out our Buster Dragon. Protos goes to defense. No more attacking for you on this turn, good sir. Buster Blader then is going to equip on our Whelp during the end phase onto our Fusion. Now, of course, problem being, if this is a Blackout, we need to be ready for it. Our opponent's probably going to be waiting for the perfect opportunity, so we draw into our Ash Blossom. We're going to summon out our Whelp, and right away, Synchro Summon into the Abyss. This makes us bigger and it gives us the ability to negate a card. It was just an imperm at the end, so ultimately it wasn't that big of a deal, but we can take out the Protos. We have to pass turn because our Fusion can't attack directly. But we have pretty much dismantled our opponent's chances of winning this game. He's not going to be having a chance. Now we know exactly what card is left in his hand. We can simply negate the Moyi and leave him without any options. Our opponent probably didn't make the right play there instead of going into the long one. So that's fine. Passes back to us, which is great. We have now the opportunity to get a lot of damage across the board here. Going to take out the Moyi, and we're going to swing directly with the Abyss. Our opponent probably should have held on to that infinite impermanence. We get our wealth back from the graveyard as well, which isn't massive, but it does provide an additional body on board, and sometimes that's all you need. He's going to go for the strategist, ditching the Taya actually, which is an interesting choice to summon out himself and a token. Going into Baron de Fleur. Now this is of course a problem. He's got that double whammy effect there. We're going to quickly sort of try to summon out our Link Karibo. We were just trying to bait the negate off the Baron, to be perfectly honest, hoping that we would negate it. He goes to pop the Abyss. Abyss of course tries to negate. He's going to negate the negate to destroy. Sucks to suck. That does unfortunately put our opponent ahead of us, but having the Link Karibo on the field means he can't just swing into our Buster Blader, so we will at the very least have this. So this is a tricky situation here. You may think that, oh well, we're just going to top deck Broken here to try and open up and win the game. Well, we top deck Call by the Grave, so this doesn't do us a lot of favors. Now, I want you to pause the video. I want you to think very carefully before watching this next part about how you would have won this section. I chose a bit of a roundabout way of doing it, and I thought it was pretty interesting, so I wanted to show it off. So what we're going to do is we're going to go Memories to fusion summon from the graveyard. We're going to banish the materials to summon out a second Buster Blader, just so that we can use both as material to summon out our Protector Whelp. Now, why don't we do that instead of just say summoning the Ash Blossom? Because we need the Ash Blossom on the field. We ditch the Whelp just because we need to. We summon out the Buster Blader, normal summon the Ash, synchro summon into Cheng, Ying, and the Call by the Grave was the best possible top deck because we can banish a card from their graveyard. That will trigger Cheng Ying to banish from the graveyard and from the field, getting rid of Baron de Fleur. 4400 attack, 3700 life points left. That is game. So a very creative method of getting past that. And not that a Baron de Fleur without its negate is like a particular threat, but whenever you're coming low on resources and your boss monsters themselves don't have the attacking power, don't have spot removal, sometimes you need to get a wee bit creative whenever you're actually dealing with it. So yeah, honestly, really fun game. Very solid ending. Our opponent did, of course, at several points misplay. I'm not going to claim that that was an optimal Sword Soul player by any means. I still feel like, you know, we don't struggle really against Sword Souls all that often. But yes, very good game from both parties. Very climactic ending. I love that ending, so I did. But yes, let's get into game number 2. Moving into game 2 and talking about Sword Souls, here we are on Mount Sword Soul here with our opponent's board. Love that one. We're going to summon out the Ashuna and the Ash Blossom just to go in the Baron de Fleur. We have a pretty interesting hand. It's not a terrible hand by any stretch of the imagination. With that trap trick there, that's pretty powerful. We go Memories. Our opponent actually ashes the Memories, which is so good for us. If you're going against Buster Blader, do not ash Memories. That only benefits us. So that's perfect. Trap trick then, we're going to banish a copy of Prologue then to set another copy of Prologue to the graveyard, to the field. Activate Prologue, ditching a dragon and our Buster Blader so we can use our Memories. Banish the dragon and the Buster Blader to fusion summon out for our fusion monster. So we get our Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman, and we get our Buster Dragon off of our Prologue. So full setup plus Baron de Fleur for some protection. You love to see it. Our opponent's going to go Infinite Impermanence there. They have too many targets. They choose to go for the Baron de Fleur, which is fine. We're going against another Sword Soul player, again one of the top decks in the game right now. The passive changing of his monsters to dragons actually prevents the synchro summoning of a number of their synchro monsters, so they're going to go into the Berserker here instead. Berserker of course automatically swapped to defense because it's changed to a dragon. It does nothing. So here's another Sword Soul player getting completely destroyed by the Buster Blader deck, and this is just enough damage. 3800, 1200, and 3k. Simple as that. That is what the deck looks like when you get everything you want going first. The first game was sort of like a display of, oh, well, bad hand, bad situation. This was a display of, well, what are you gonna do? You're a top tier deck? Well, you know, we don't really care. We're still gonna beat you. That was pretty much as easy as that. Very good game. Let's get into game number 3. Alrighty, getting into game 3. We're going second this time, which is normally not a great look for the deck, and we're going up against at Ignisters. Now this is tough, so it is. So The Ignister combo, it's a bit long. I'm going to fast forward through it a wee bit. We only really have one form of interruption. They're going to go into Infant, which grabs their field spell. Their field spell is sort of the crux of it, which allows them to continuously special summon monsters from their hand, so long as they haven't summoned something of that same attribute earlier in the turn. It's sort of like the Ignister equivalent to Codec, to the Cynet Codec. So they're going to just continue on their combo here, returning the Picari to their hand, link off into Transcode Talker. This is what we were holding our Ghost Bell for. We're going to wait until he goes Transcode and then negate the Transcode with the Ghost Bell. But he still has more than enough ability to extend, so there you go. He has the Call by the Grave anyway, so even though we did wait to the perfect time, we still get stopped regardless. So that's unfortunate. He's going to link now up into the Dark Templar at Ignister, and then into a second copy of the Infant. Templar and Infant are both activating to move each other basically, and then summon as many monsters here from the graveyard as he can fit in his zones. He's got a prismatic sort of royal finish there on the Synchro Monster, and out comes the boss. Now, why is this a problem? The Arrival Cyberse, if you've never faced this deck before, if you've never played it yourself, this card is essentially unaffected by other cards' effects. No special clauses, no special rules. This is just a 4K beater that we're going to need to somehow get past, and he also has the ability to pop monsters as an ignition effect on our opponent's turn. Now, our hand looks okay, but it's not exactly great, because even if we summon out our monsters off of our prologue, we're not going to get any real traction. The goal, really, the only way we can get over this is we need to wait until our turn, summon out our monsters, and then hopefully then he has enough monsters on our board to boost our Buster Blader up stronger than his Arrival Cyberse. We're just going to have to hope and pray that we can survive this turn without needing to use our trap card, which may not be as easy as it sounds. We're going to try and stop his revival effects here. He was going to try and add back Fighting Spirit. That's not going to mean very much, considering he can just grab back his Kichiri off a Splash Mage. Out comes the Access Code Talker. Access Code Talker, of course, being a massive problem. He's going to boost himself up to 4,300. Kichiri's going to activate. We're going to activate Prolong now just because, but our opponent's going to have the ability to banish the monster from the graveyard there to negate it, which again slows us down quite massively, and basically from here it's just a clean wipe. So why did I want to show this off? Well, for one, it was cool, you know, Ignisters actually doing their thing and actually winning using their boss monster. It doesn't happen very often. Ignisters definitely aren't a bad deck, but they're not great, and they usually win through the use of like an access code blow up as opposed to their actual boss monster. So it's cool to see them doing their thing. Second to that, I wanted to show that it's not always perfect. The deck doesn't always go to plan. There are certain things that the deck really does struggle to get out. One of them being, well, unaffected monsters, because every deck struggles to get rid of those. Secondary are monsters that are just bigger than the Buster Blader itself, which is an issue. Something like that, very similar, is Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign Cheng Ying. That's why we have the Abyss Dragon. The deck is built to get around these sorts of cards as best they can, but the one thing that this particular build struggles with the most is unaffected cards, which unfortunately there's a few of at the minute. But yes, I wanted to show that off just as one of the weaknesses. I never like showing off 3 wins. I feel like that's very arrogant. I don't want to set false expectations. It's not going to be a 100% win rate. Of course it's not. No deck is. But there you go. We're going to talk briefly about the deck profile. It'll probably not be a full breakdown, but we'll talk about it a wee bit. Alrighty, so to anyone who has been around the channel for any length of time, this is it's one of the more popular decks on the channel. So it is. People love to see it. I love using it. It's a win-win. Bringing back one of the most classic boss monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh!, the Buster Blader. It's always great to bring back a classic card and still find wins and find that niche in the metagame to stake your claim and get those wins. We've got some pretty decent win streaks with this, and this particular version of the deck feels to let me down. It always performs. We're always winning at least sort of 60 to 70% of our games, so you absolutely love to see it. This is, if you want to play Buster Blader, this is probably going to be the best way of doing it. In my opinion, there are a couple of other ones. Even on the channel, we've explored other options. You know, we've done like Rockets, we've done the Tenyi into DPE type mix, which are both fine. They'll both work, but I don't think they work as consistently as this one does. This is a very sort of thought out, methodical list. The only one change that you could potentially make is cutting down the Buster Blader to 2 instead of 3. I think that would be fine. 3 is a wee bit much, I'll be perfectly honest. You might want to throw in like an additional imperm or something, but that's hardly the point. The idea is there's 3 main strategies in the deck. One, of course, is your Buster Blader strategy, which centers around your prologue, which you've got essentially 9 copies of, 3 here, 3 here, and 3 here. So your Whelp and your Trap Trick also search for it. So you've got essentially 9 copies of your prologue, and so long as you have either a dragon or your memories already in the graveyard, that is essentially going to be your full play setup. So Buster Blader plays very self-contained, very linear, easy to do, perfect. What are the other 2 strategies? So the other 2 strategies are Rose Dragon Synchro and the level 7 spam into number 42. So Rose Dragon Synchro is essentially you want your red Rose Dragon and any of your level 7s that you can summon. So like your 2 Tenyis or your Ascended of Thunder, that gives you 7 different options. So your Rose Dragon plus any of those guys will create a situation where you're going to be summoning the Whelp as well as a level 10 Synchro. Now, why does that matter? Because if you can do this alongside your Buster Blader play, then that means not only are you going to have an additional level 10 Synchro monster on the field, usually Baron de Fleur for an additional negate, you're also going to be able to set up the Buster lock much more consistently. So the idea is you have your Red Rose Dragon plus any of your level 7s, Synchro summon into Baron de Fleur, right? There's your level 10 Synchro. The effective Red Rose Dragon activates to special summon from your deck the Rocks Rose Dragon. The Rocks Rose Dragon, when summoned, will grab the Basil Rose Shoot from your deck and add it to your hand. The Basil Rose Shoot will then revive the Red Rose Dragon that's in your graveyard. Now your Red Rose and your Rocks Rose will combine to summon out the Protector Whelp of the Destruction Swordsman. Protector Whelp then, when he's summoned, will send a Destruction Sword card from your deck to the graveyard, and if you have a Buster Blader in your hand, you can summon it, but you don't have to have one. So it's an excellent way to put an additional monster on board if you happen to open up one of these guys. That's why playing 3 of it isn't so bad. But either way, it's guaranteed to put this card into your graveyard, which is excellent if you already have your prologue set up. It is perfect. Now, that basically means that on the next turn, you can prologue. Prologue, of course, will set up your Buster Blader play, and because this guy's in the graveyard, your Buster Dragon will equip it from the graveyard onto your fusion monster, and that will lock your opponent out of their extra deck. Again, if you want the play-by-play and card for card, you can check the previous video, but this is just a general idea. So the Rose Dragon play is basically setting up a level 10 Synchro, setting up a full field negate, switching everything to defense, and locking your opponent out of your extra deck. It's nuts. Really strong, and it's literally Red Rose Dragon and any of your level 7s. Now, you've only got about a 33% chance of opening up Red Rose Dragon, so what do you do when you don't? Well, then you have your level 7 package. If you open up 2 summonable level 7s, you can use them to go into your number 42 Galaxy Tomahawk. Number 42 Galaxy Tomahawk will be summoned to one of your main monster zones. Do not summon it to the extra monster zone, summon it to the main monster zone, and it will summon 4 tokens out to your field. Then you can use this monster and 2 of those tokens to go into your Auroradon. Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon will essentially tribute itself and an additional token to summon out the Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion from your deck, and the O-Lion plus either 2 of your Mecha Phantom Beast tokens or 1 of your Battle Eagle tokens will summon out your Borreload Savage Dragon. So it depends on what you sort of have in your hand and which ones you want to use, but you're basically setting up a Borreload Savage Dragon as well as hopefully having your prologue, which gives you the Omni Negate plus the full field negate and switch to defense off of the Buster combo. This one's a wee bit weaker because you're not always going to have the Buster lock handy, so it's not quite as good as the Rose Dragon play. However, it costs you nothing additionally to put it in, so having the level 7 package there is fantastic. We also have just the 1 copy of the Adhara, because if you happen to, if the level 7 you draw into happens to be the Ashuna, then you can also use the Ashuna in the graveyard to banish it to summon out the Adhara from deck, to then synchro summon into your Jericho Berserker with any of your level 7s or any of your other sort of plays. So the Adhara is here for a bit of flexibility with the Ashuna summon. That's why the Berserker is here as well, because it'll lock you in the worms. And this guy's one of the better worm monsters you can summon. I think this guy would be one of the best ones. So yeah, the deck is deep. There is quite a few layers of play to this deck, and that's why you even want like loads of like level 3 tuner hand traps. These guys are the best because if you draw one of your level 7s, you can still normal summon these guys to make plays. So it's great. But yes, the deck is very deep. There are lots of levels of play, lots of layers, but the Buster Blader combo itself is still core and at the heart of the deck. It is a Buster Blader deck. It's just decorated and made into an actual competitor by all of these sort of machinations around it, by the level 7 engine, by the Rose Dragon engine. These optimizations have been made. This deck has been tested, proven to work. The hand trap lineup, you can run whatever you want. So we've got the double Maxi, double Ash, double Ghost Bell, double Call by the Grave, a single Crossout Designator, double Imperm. Even those hand traps are pretty carefully chosen, because you do want to have your level 3 tuners. If you want to run Ghost Ogre, for example, you can. Ghost Ogre is perfect. Things like that, but you do want your level 3 tuners. Infinite Impermanence is good because it can also be searched off of Trap Trick if you already have your Prologue. It gives you an additional negate if you need it. And then whatever you want to run after that. Buster Blade, the Maxi is just a pretty strong target overall. And then these guys are just good to make sure your Whelp doesn't get ashed, because your Whelp is a 1 card combo. But yes, that is probably a little bit disorienting for a lot of people. That may not have been the best breakdown in the world. If you want a full card for card, combo by combo, piece by piece breakdown, you can check the last video. I don't want to bore the people who have already seen me play this deck, but it is a very, very fun deck to play. Absolutely pick it up. It's not even that heavy on the budget. You know, a lot of these synchro monsters you're going to be having anyway because they're just good cards. There's a couple of URs in the extra deck, but other than that, you've got 1, 2, 3 deck specific URs you're going to be playing, and the rest of these cards are just good in a bunch of decks, so they're not specific to this strategy. Some of them are even free, like the Tomahawk comes in the legacy packs. You don't need to craft this, you don't need to get it. This comes for free in the legacy packs. But yes, that's the deck, that's the idea. If you have any changes you'd make, leave them down below. If you like what you saw, like the video and subscribe just to see more stuff coming out. You know, it doesn't cost you anything, helps me out an awful lot. We're getting close to our goal of 1,000, so I would appreciate the support. And that's pretty much it for me, and I'll see you on the next one.